Don't do two calls.
Don't do two calls.
Don't do two calls. The biggest cost of our lives are two things, like ignorance and action or inaction, right? So like if I can pay down ignorance consistently, either through coaching or books or podcasts, that's what I'll do. Was when I went to Dan Henry's first event, AdCon, I was just a generally good salesperson. Not a seasoned sales professional. I'm just a deal maker, right? Talented.
Yeah.
And then I listened to Ryan Stewman, and he like breaks down at Dan Henry's event this like very particular frame, and it completely blew my mind. And that's when I like started reading like every single book after that to like be like, man, I got to make my own frame. And then One Call Close just was like there, and it was a no-brainer. A problem well explained is a problem half solved, right? I believe that like 100% wholeheartedly, especially so as someone that survived heart surgery, which if I didn't know I had the heart problem, I could be dead. But since I knew it, we can fix it. Obviously not ideal, but that's a scenario. So
there's a big claim in our space where it's like separate family from business, right? I don't really know, because in my head, I'm not looking for Layla Hermosi, but also having Layla Hermosi is incredible.
I think the big thing was, I came from an entrepreneurial family in general. Both my parents were in corporate. And so watching them build that up made me realize like this could be a family environment in business. And Cher and I met in high school, so we were just ride or die. Like we knew by senior year, like we were gonna get married. Like I didn't go to Rutgers University to stay with her to go to UCF. We just knew like it was gonna be locked down. And with that, it was just like, she had skill set and she didn't want to go back to school either. And so it just felt obvious because the other coworker that I'm trying to make money with and make life with is right next to me. Why try to find someone else? And so that was just kind of how it happened. It just was a no-brainer.
A no-brainer.
Yeah.
In this episode of Make America Remote Again, I got to interview Alex Schlinsky, who's a legend in the marketing agency world. Alex Schlinsky not only scaled his own agency to millions of dollars a year, but he's helped so many students of his be able to achieve the same while also living an incredible life. We talk about his story, his come up, and how he was able to achieve all of this. At the same time, every year he hosts some of the best events, again, in the marketing agency world. So we're gonna dive into his story, we're gonna dive into a lot of stuff that you guys are not expecting, and this episode gets a little bit emotional because he opens up about things that he's never talked about. So if you wanna learn about marketing, if you wanna learn about sales, if you wanna learn how to become a better business owner, this episode is for you. Check it out, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on Make America Remote Again. Welcome back to Make America Remote Again. I'm here with Alex Schlinsky. We're all the way in Tampa, Florida. I'm very excited.
Same.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
A long time.
And here we are. And Alex, before we dive into POD and agency and being a sales wizard and even starting a family now,
yes,
I want to talk about a little bit about who Alex Schlinsky is, because I found out a little bit more about you, knowing that your college life and all that stuff. So
ooh, a little spicy talk.
Let's start thinking back a little bit back in time, and then we'll dive into sales and POD and everything that you've done over the last few years. So you're from Florida.
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about did you go to college and where you were raised? Because I think that makes a huge impact on who you are today.
For sure. So I think you and I have at least somewhat similar background. I grew up born and raised in a small Jewish community in Hollywood, Florida. I grew up in a community, very strong community-based model, going to temple every week and having people over for Sabbath dinner all the time. And my parents were big on inviting people into the home and creating a nurtured environment, and having people that were not necessarily blood relatives family, but they were still family. Our people, as you know, right? And I think that ended up becoming, my entrepreneurial dream of creating a community myself. And that stemmed essentially from realizing that was even an opportunity at all. When I was growing up, my main thing was I thought I was going to become an attorney. It is very, stereotypical, as you know, accounting. Attorneys were allowed to make these jokes, by the way, because we're both yids, just for clarity. Yes. But in general, I really did want to become an attorney. But when I went to school, it was just pretty obvious, quickly, that I just was not going to be able to stay engaged long enough. I was a really smart student, but based off of working insanely hard. Not just I got it right away. I had to sacrifice a lot to be able to do it. So I went to school in Orlando at University of Central Florida, which was a really big culture shock, like we were talking about right before this. And when I was actually a senior in high school, before I went to UCF, my next door neighbor was an attorney. And basically what ended up happening was Facebook had just come out with business pages before they came out with ads. And he was like, I think think this is going to become a big deal. He was right on the money. He's like, I want you to post for me once a day, and I'll pay you $1,000 a month for it. So he paid me $1,000 a month my entire senior year, which I thought I was the biggest baller in the history of life.
Okay.
It was legit, legendary, right? And basically just doing contact newsletters once a month and posting on socials. And because at that time, Facebook was boosting like business pages without ads. 2009, I think it was.
Okay.
Like boosting ads, but not ads, but like the boosted post button, without even having to pay, because they wanted people to start realizing like this is going to be a great marketplace for advertising. And so from there, when I went to school, I just asked them like, hey, you went to law school at UF, do you have anyone that you're still connected with that could potentially become a client of mine? He connected me with someone in Orlando and in Tampa, and then about 5 other attorneys, all of which, you know, was the easiest closes of my life. Like, oh, you know Lloyd, but done, paid $1,000 a month, no problem. And so I was swanging it with Shira, my wife, at the time my girlfriend, who I met in high school, but it was like we were just basically waking up early, posting on all these socials, going to school, and we had no paradigm or understanding that this was a business. We just thought like this is FU money, this is do whatever we want in college money, this is be bougie money, because we didn't come from money. So like the idea that we're getting an extra $6,000, $7,000, or $8,000 a month at that time was like unheard of, right? And so it was cool to be like to my parents, like I'll pay for the not just school, but also like my apartment and stuff, which was rad. So going into that process, I still didn't even know that I had an agency. So like one of my main like trainings or like funny like little lines about a fun fact about me is like I ran an agency for 4 years and I didn't even know. People are like, what the hell? So we went through school, didn't know, and I just got completely burnt out after college, and then I searched online. I'm like, you know, like social media posting business, and then I found Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, and I bought a ticket to their virtual event, and I was blown away by it. And then Dan Henry ads and Dave Rogenmoser ads, and oh my God, this is a thing. And then I joined Entrepreneur Alliance, and it was so fast. Like this 2014 to 2017 was like a crazy blur of like starting the actual company that we had, and it was unreal. Like I just went back to the attorneys that I knew from my OG Temple, and I got like 10 clients right off the rip. Paid a company called Reach Local to do ads for them. Did mostly well, I would say. Some of them obviously not great, but we still have some of those OG clients now, 10 years later, which is insane. And yeah, so that was like the whole genesis of it. And then about 2 years later, we started POD, which is insane.
Which we'll come back to in a second here. What was the thing for you that you were like, I don't want to be an attorney, I don't want to be a lawyer? Because that's a big decision. That's a life decision, right? And it's one thing to work with lawyers, it's another thing to become a lawyer. What was that decision like?
So I think, like I was saying in school, like I was very good at school, but through like really hard work. A lot of people don't know this about me. I don't even think I've shared this ever on a podcast or any speaking engagement. So first time ever. I was born completely dyslexic. I didn't know how to read until I was 10 years old. So I had special education at Hillel Community Day School in North Miami Beach, teaching me like how to like read and write. And obviously I was very bad at math then too. And you know how it is with like kids and shit. Like you would get bullied like crazy for being in Kesher at the time, and being in special education, and that was really, really rough. But it made me like very, very determined to kind of like prove it that I could be just an unstoppable force. My parents were always big on like massive self-affirmation, like you can do it, you can do anything you set your mind to, you just have to have the belief. Like that was their stuff all the time, like depositing consistent affirmation to me, which is something I try to do to everyone I work with, anyone that I speak with, just because I feel like so often we're our own worst enemy, so depositing that into someone else is super impactful and powerful. And so when I went to college, like I was committed to becoming a cum laude student, and I did graduate cum laude, but
what cum laude is
10%, top 10%.
Okay.
But the truth is, like I graduated top 10% in psychology, which is a huge, amazing deal, but it wasn't because I was like super smart. I was smart, but it was because I like sacrificed a lot, didn't do the partying that I wanted to, frankly, and like didn't go out sometimes to like study for the test and wake up super early and do all these things that by the time school ended, and then you have the realization, well, now you got to go back to school and law school, which is notoriously very challenging. I just didn't have that drive, especially because
burnt out, do you feel like?
So burnt out, bro. So burnt out, especially so considering I was already making some money, but I didn't have like entrepreneurial spirit yet. So as soon as I realized I didn't have the school anymore, what am I going to do now? So I just started thinking more about this side hustle thing and realizing, oh my God, this is an actual thing? Like this is a business? What? And that's how it happened.
It's interesting, man, because both of us come from similar backgrounds in different ways, I like you said, but for us, not being lawyers, doctors, engineers is basically
deal.
failure,
Yeah,
right?
it's a big deal.
It's like those are the top 3 options we have. So I know when I ask people, specifically with big people backgrounds like us, even Arabs, right? Like when they are not Indians or Asians and they're entrepreneurs, I'm
doubt.
always so interested. I'm like, I know that conversation was hard.
For sure.
My parents were, it was just like, and I don't know how it was for you, but for me, it wasn't just my parents' pride. It was when they have to go talk to their friends. And then, wait, my son's a lawyer and my son's a doctor. What's your son? Business
Entrepreneur.
But today, I feel like being an entrepreneur is cool. And even like 5 years ago, but like when you first started 2014, I mean, it wasn't cool.
No.
It was like
It failed.
Because I started MLM. You know, like MLM. At least you didn't. At least your first
That's
business wasn't
incredible.
MLM. So. You got your first client, and then you obviously fulfilled, and you went back. You're like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to my network. I'm gonna close some people, and then what was the next step in the agency before you started POD? Like, did you guys start running ads? Where did you guys start?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest piece was operational, like understanding of what it takes to run a company. Like I'm a big people person. That's just how I am. Like I love pouring into people, but I don't really love pouring into attorneys because they're a what's next mentality. So like you get them 10 cases, they wanted 11. You get them 50 cases, they wanted 51, right? If you get them one case, they want the next case. Nothing's ever good enough or satisfactory. And I'm a big like love languages person. Like words of affirmation is a big thing to me. Like when I put a lot of work or effort into something, I want acknowledgement for that. And there's certainly weakness towards that, of course, but in a general sense, like I love giving that to people. I want to receive that too, and I was just not getting that at all from the business. And although I was making good money, fulfillment-wise, it was just like draining, and I was back towards that burnout stage that I just experienced only 2 years prior in college. Because that initial entrepreneurial fire is so exciting, like the concept of like getting out of your bed and being like, let's fucking go, right? And you're like ready to crush the day. It's the best thing. And then you're like 2 years later, you're like, I want to die, and you're like, wait a minute, why do I want to die? Like this is amazing. I'm the boss. I'm making money. It's great. You're like, no, I want to die. And so I had to like come to a realization that I need to build this business and actually understand what a business is, because it was just a freelance thing. And so what I ended up doing was, investing into coaching and support, specifically with Shira, my wife, to help her become like the ops manager so that we can then delegate. And so what we did is we took someone from the Reach Local team and made them our COO, and they just basically handled the operations from there after we built SOPs and process. And as soon as we did that, immediately switched over to the coaching model because I knew that would be way more fulfilling.
Yeah, and you mentioned Shira a couple times. I hope I get to meet her in the future.
Hopefully.
And it's interesting because there's a big claim in our space where it's like separate family from business, right? What was that like? Because I've had girlfriends and I'm like in my head, I'm like, do I ever want them to be in my business? I don't really know, because in my head, I'm not looking for a Leila Hermosi, but also having Leila Hermosi is incredible.
For sure.
What was that conversation like? Because that seems like that was a process, and that you
for
also
sure.
talked about 2 years of her getting trained into, and she might not even been good. Then what's that conversation like?
Oh, it's tough for sure. I think the big thing was, I came from an entrepreneurial family in general, but in a different way than I started. So both my parents were in corporate. So my dad worked with Match Mutual for a long time, and then also was a funeral director as well before that. And my mom also worked with Justin McClintock, which was a big company in the 90s, and she quit to start her own passion, which was running an art studio in Aventura, where she had over 1,000 students in a decade with an actual brick and mortar store that was ultra successful just from her. And she's like an incredible entrepreneur, amazing saleswoman. I learned all my stuff from my mom basically on sales and everything, and empathy and all that jazz. And then my dad basically was realizing he doesn't want to be a funeral director anymore, became an insurance agent, and then started doing his own business by himself on financial planning. And so watching them build that up made me realize this could be a family environment and business. And Shira and I met in high school, so we were just ride or die. Like we knew by senior year we were going to get married. Like I didn't go to Rutgers University to stay with her to go to UCF. We just knew it was going to be locked down. And with that, it was just she had skill set and she didn't want to go back to school either. And so it just felt obvious because the other coworker that I'm trying to make money with and make life with is right next to me. Why try to find someone else? And so that was just kind of how it happened. It just was a no-brainer.
A no-brainer.
Yeah.
So it's basically love at first sight, which is awesome. and bringing her on board, you mentioned she had a skill set, you had a skill set, and sometimes those skill sets align. How did you figure that she should be basically the back end and ops, and then you be the head? Like, how did you guys come to that? Because
It was just like our personalities. Like I'm a very like center of attention personality, loud person. Like love to be, you know, the guy, right? And Shira really likes, you know, she prefers to do back end operations. Like in school for drama, she was like the coordinator, the back end coordinator for like the dress design and the stage design and all that stuff. And that was just something she was super passionate about. The way we met in high school, which is so funny, is we were in a math class together, and she was the one that was just like the note taker extraordinaire. Like you know how it is in school, and she like had all her things color coded and she had all the notes, and it was like, well, she's sexy and she's note taking, I'm gonna go get this fish, right? And so I'd go there, and then she was into me, thankfully, thank God. And so, you know, we became very good friends first, and then we started dating, but it was just so obvious from school, from college, like what her skill set were and what mine were, that they were so easily aligned on a yin and yang, especially for the front end of our business, where like, I'm an extremely audacious person. Like when I would go to in person to attorneys' offices with donuts and like just not take no for an answer. And I would leverage every card I have, whether it's like, if the law office says Leibowitz on it, I'm saying that I'm a Jew, right? If the law office is something completely different, I'm talking about being a young entrepreneur trying to start, and you started at some point, give me a shot. Like I was using everything I possibly could, and I was reading every sales book possible, because I realized I was already very naturally gifted at it, but then realizing like I could become a lot better, and investing into myself on it was unbelievable. So it was just a very easy realization.
What I'm hearing right now, man, is that you did whatever the fuck it took.
No doubt.
And so many people today have so much more knowledge and so much more leverage than we did when we first started. And I think sometimes when you're overstimulated with knowledge, when you feel like you're reading and you're podcasting, you feel like you're actually doing something while you're out there actually going in person and or cold calling or doing whatever it takes. You know, what do you think separates like the young entrepreneur that's hungry and successful with someone that's just like doesn't make it happen? Like it frustrates me, because I'm like listening to you, I'm like, bro, you're I think everybody's hungry, but like you had something that other people didn't.
I think one thing also was like, there was one benefit that I had at that time that was very different than what it is now in today's landscape for younger entrepreneurs, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, which was I didn't really understand the market at all. Like I didn't understand that there was competition, and so I couldn't be bothered by like high school drama shit of like, I didn't make the basketball team, or I'm not the lead in the drama play, or I didn't get this grade and this guy got this grade, or I didn't get this girl, and this, like that shit. It doesn't just go away when you graduate. Like you are still immature in many ways, especially so. And even today, as a dad and like older, I'm still immature in some ways. And that like way that I can be very cognizant of the things I need to grow in personally allows me to ensure that I get the right support to do so. Like problem well explained is a problem half solved, right? I believe that like 100% wholeheartedly, especially so as someone that survived heart surgery, which if I didn't know I had the heart problem, I could be dead. But since I knew it, we can fix it. Obviously not ideal, but that's a scenario. So I think that is one pretty significant benefit that I had. I genuinely did not know. Like when I say that I had a business for 4 years and I didn't know, it's because I literally didn't know. And I know that sounds insane, but like there was just no paradigm for that. I just didn't know that digital marketing agency or SMMA was a thing, or Dan Henry was a thing. Or Ty Lopez was a thing. I didn't know any of those things. And because I didn't have any interest on it, because all my interests were like women and sports and that's it. Pretty much. That's pretty much it. Alcohol, pretty much, and all the ads would just be that. It would just be sports shit, right? And fighting, you know, UFC. Like that's all it was. So back then, like I didn't have that, and I think today, like there's a much stronger mental health challenge than people I think realize. Like before we started the pod, like I was telling you, the hardest part of the business is like how many people are like so genuinely struggling. And it's like we have this concept in our coaching product of like we can give you all the tools and resources, etc. But if you don't do the work, it's not going to work. So it's like, you know, I give this metaphor kind of in self-deprecating way of like if I go to a gym and I'm like, okay, here's the payment for the year in advance. Okay, ready, Equinox? Give me abs. Do it. I'm ready. Is it done? It's like, well, what would they say? You know, like, the fuck you talking about, right?
Your money.
And we're kind of in a society, not to be any way sanctimonious, but it feels like we're leading towards this, and I know you can feel this too, where it's like, in 5 years from now, you're gonna have a done-for-you gym, where it's like, you just stand there and you watch something on your glasses, you see McGlumatad, you watch something on your Apple Visions, and we'll move your hands for you. Like, well, we have two people moving your hands. Like, we're not far from that shit, you know? So it's like, I think, the concept is like people understand that there is work to do, but then there's so much fear associated with that work, fear of failure, fear of looking like an idiot, fear of loss, like so much that I just did not have. I did not have any of that. All that I was crazy hungry and like realizing a talent that was unmarked. And when you like realize a talent, that's something super special. And it's my favorite part still of coaching. Like when I realize that someone has a talent that they have not yet realized, and I get to pour into that person and be like, bro, I'm telling you, I know what you have. And then they get it and they unleash it, and now they're in control of it. You know, like Goku Super Saiyan, and they're like, oh, you knew before. I'm like, yeah, you're damn right I did. And so it's like, I want new entrepreneurs or younger entrepreneurs, one, to find people that will give them that affirmation to find whatever that special superpower is that you have, because you have it, you have something, or like work voraciously until you find it. And it's okay if it's not the specific thing you're currently doing.
Or it's
like,
your business.
It could be that, right?
Yeah, somewhere else.
And that was the big thing for me. So like, I was just very hungry because of ignorance, which is, I think, hard in today. I feel like it's really hard to be ignorant.
Who was that person for you? Who believed in you? That was like, you've got it. Like, you have this it factor.
Yeah, probably Dave Rogenmoser, I would say. I was in his mastermind. He ended up making Jarvis before ChatGPT, which is so crazy. And I think it got on the Y Combinator, I'm pretty sure, which like super good for him. He was running this company like Entrepreneur Alliance. It was clearly like a faith-based, not faith-based, sorry, but heart-based like entrepreneur community, and like very driven to truly help. Like, yes, he was making money, but like ultra transparent person. Like, yes, it's for profit, but yes, I actually care, and yes, I'll pour into you. And I remember we had one or two one-on-one calls, and this dude like was super smart, and I respected him greatly. And I remember like in the first or second call, he was just like, yeah, dude, you got it. Yeah, you're gonna get this. You're gonna be successful. I would say right after that, Scott Olford, and particularly one person that worked with Scott, which was Zion Kim, because Scott was a little like separated from his community at that point due to like being very individualistic, which I respect. Like at the end of the day, like I went to an event with him for a small intimate event, and as soon as the event ended, he left. Like he didn't even want to network. It's just like it's not for him, which is whatever. But one of his team members, this guy Zion Kim, just was really pouring into me, and like with massive amount of affirmation in a way that I haven't ever experienced other than like teachers that I really cared about or my parents. And when you get that from not your parents, from a stranger, and you're like, you don't even have an ulterior motive here, you're like, damn, I better believe that. And that's what I love doing to other human beings. It's like my favorite thing in the whole world.
And I love that you love that, because in coaching, that's so important. And if you ever lose that, it's over.
What's the point? It's totally gone. It's totally gone.
You also talked about fear, and I was just kind of thinking in my head, like, I think so many people are afraid to make content today because they're scared of what people are going to judge them on.
100%.
And they have incredible knowledge about whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be something that is going to help people make money, but like you're so passionate about football or UFC or comedy, and you keep it to yourself. I'm like, dude, you're robbing yourself and so many people of joy.
100%.
And you know, people are like, well, dude, your videos get like I have videos that literally get 3 likes, and then I'll have a video that makes half a million views. I literally don't do it. You know, the one thing I'm jealous of you right now is that you have a kid, and your son's going to be able to see your videos growing up.
Oh yeah, for
I wish I got to see videos of my dad.
He gets to watch me progressively bald, though.
Right. Well, he sees a lot of hats. He's like, my dad has a lot of hats.
Why,
you know?
Why does he wear so many hats?
I wonder. One day I'll find out. You know, it's. But I think it's so cool because your son. Remind me of the name.
Ellie.
Eventually, Ellie's going to be able to see the videos and your progression of getting better at videos.
No doubt.
You and I have gotten better at sales. And we started making content just like recently, in the last couple of years, if that. I mean, I've been doing it for 2 years. I don't know how long.
When I see you on content, I think like probably OG content, like 2017 stuff.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, wow, this is horrendous.
Yes. But guess what? But we put ourselves out there.
Of course.
And most people didn't even do that, right?
Dude, and I look at the copy also of some of my posts back then. I'm like, this is so contrived. This is so Alex trying to be someone that's not Alex.
Yeah.
It was so bad. It was so bad. I'm like all about authenticity at this point. Like just be as real as I could be.
You know, you grow and you learn. And
100%.
I'd rather you not be yourself and put yourself out there and just try.
No doubt.
Than do nothing.
No doubt. If I can give anyone that advice, it's just like, don't be afraid of what anyone else is like thinking about you, because at the end of the day, like everyone's carrying their own fucking weight. Like that spotlight effect is such a dangerous thought process. It's like everyone's gonna worry about me. It's like, dude, they're so busy worrying about their shit. Like a lot of people are very guarded human beings. Like I'm not particularly, but because I'm not doesn't mean that other people aren't. Like some people will hold shit and never ever say anything. Like their wife might have cheated on them and they will never tell anyone ever, right? And or they will have a miscarriage, or they will have someone in their life sick and die. They will never say anything, and they will carry that shit, and they will deal with it, and they're so struggling, and you're worried about what they're going to think about your content. They're not thinking about your fucking content,
nobody
dude.
cares.
They're worried about their own life, you know?
Yeah.
So in a general sense, it's like that's kind of the main thought process I have. For me, at this point, it's the opposite end, where it's like so annoying to like make content now and have the responsibility of like putting in the effort only to realize like only some of it's going to hit, some of it's not, and it's like not really super attributable. But my favorite is when I speak to someone, it's like, I watched all your videos. I'm like, thanks for all those fucking likes, bro. Thanks for all those comments that you never left, dog. Thanks for the shares, bro. Appreciate it. And they're like, here's the credit card. I'm like, okay, fine. All right, you made up for it. You made up for it.
It's so funny how content obviously can have a huge correlation on money, but then, you know, we were just at our good friend's event.
Legend.
Absolute legend. Shout out to Iconic Becker.
Yes.
And I met so many people that have millions of followers, and I know for a fact
they making shit.
Making shit.
No.
So who's really winning? You know what I mean?
It's so crazy.
But if you can crack content and business, it's over. It's a wrap. And that's, you know, we obviously know people like that as well.
I mean, also like some of the best in the space. Nowhere in our market, but like you look at Logan Paul, like what an incredible genius. Like from a YouTube,
his brother too,
all these things. And like it's incredible what he's been able to accomplish.
And
entrepreneurship.
It's grinding. Like whatever day, they've been doing it for 10 years.
Bro, and I'm not a WWE guy, but I've watched some of his matches. He's no joke, a legit athlete.
Legit. And they'll tell you that. Forget about me and you. I don't watch that shit anymore.
I don't watch it either.
But you hear legends talk about it.
That's crazy for him to be able to accomplish that. It's wild.
One thing I can tell about both of us is that neither of us are haters.
Nah.
And there's people that maybe I'm not a fan of, but I look at talent, I'm like, okay, this guy worked hard, he did the right thing, and you know, like, there's some things that I wouldn't necessarily agree with him on, but he worked hard. Going back to you, man. So got the agency, and then where did the idea of POD come in? Because what it is today, and you're known for POD, right? So obviously it's beyond a journey for you, but scaled the agency, wife's on board, and before we get to POD, I want to know who were your first hirings on the agency side?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting, just as a quick correlation to the agency, because I didn't know that the agency was going to work. Like, I actually didn't have like immense faith or belief that this was going to be the long-term business, and I wasn't passionate about it. So even before I found out about community, like leading towards POD, I did the other thing I'm super passionate about, which is sports. So I worked with the UFC. I was a journalist, and I also worked for the Miami Dolphins.
I had no idea.
Bro, so I got credentialed as a media member for the Miami Dolphins in 2014.
You could have been Ariel Hawani. You could have been the Hawani.
Straight up. Nah, he's amazing, man.
No, he's a man.
But I mean, genuinely, like the greatest professional moment of my life, the two greatest would be the first POD event, and like realizing a dream for like 5 years, which we can talk about later, and then getting the credential for the Miami Dolphins. Like I told you before we started the pod, like that was like a religious thing in my house. Like Sundays, hot dogs, family, football, Dolphins sucking. That part's the shitty part, but the rest of it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Fucking Tom Brady, bro. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyways, you know, like doing that was incredible. And you know, when I was making money, I was thinking, well, why don't I try to make a career out of like becoming a sportscaster? Because I know everything about sports. You know, I'm like I have the most. The amount of useless knowledge I have about sports is so upsetting, because it's like, man, I could have had way more business success or way more like personal success.
Your brain can only have so much.
I know all of the backup quarterbacks from 2007.
Dude,
the stupidest stuff. So basically, long story short, I got a byline on a website called Fansided, which was a Sports Illustrated affiliate. Sent out like 1,000 cold emails, bro. 1,000, like just day after day, sending bunch of emails. I'd Shira scrape a list from Upwork on it, and we like made this. We got this like platform where you could send out a bunch of emails, and I finally got this thing, and they're like, you'll make $1 per 1,000 views. The website averaged 1,000 views per article. So I'm like, oh, but I'm a Dolphins media member now. They're like, no. You have to call the media department at the Miami Dolphins to get it. So I remember I called, bro, like every single day for like 2 months before training camp started. So this is like April and May, just calling every single day while I'm still trying to make the business work. And every single day I get the same objection. Like the PR guy was Jason Jenkins. Like, oh, Jason Jenkins is in a meeting. He's in lunch. He's every objection. But I would just keep calling, because ultimately, like, I was committed to the idea that I would never give up on this, because I was already making money elsewhere, that I have this as an extra thing. Like, there's no problem. And basically, like, I was committed to understanding that they were not going to be able to say no more times than I was willing to hear it. Like, I was willing to just get rejected for 5 years in a row. I didn't care. Obviously, easy to say, but in general, but like, I got rejected a lot. And then I remember one day, she just like, Jason's in his office, and she pinged me through, and it was that hold music in the elevator, like the do. And I was like, holy fuck, dude, I have no idea what I'm gonna say. Like, I wasn't prepared. I don't know. Jason picks up, Jason Jenkins, Miami Dolphins, how can I help you? I don't remember exactly what it was, but it probably was something like, Jason, Dolphins fan, Alex, fan-sided, media. I don't remember what I said. He's like, cool, you're credentialed. We'll see you on this date for Miami Dolphins, training camp. And I couldn't believe it. I got an email confirmation on it, and I remember driving up to North Southeastern University, where the Dolphins training camp was, on whatever July 5th maybe, like the day after July 4th, 2014. And I got I wooled up and I told my name, and they gave me a Miami Dolphins media credential. Wow. And I have it still. It's in my office, and I remember, it's hard to not get emotional about this, because I remember grabbing that and feeling an achievement that I had never felt before in my whole life. Like, a lot of the business success that I had back then felt like it was very just given to me due to not nepotism, but like communitism. It's not a word, but like just from community, because like, I was a Jew, there was a neighbor, it was like $1,000, they have a lot of money, no problem. It's a Schlinsky, like, we'll give it, and I didn't feel like I really earned any of it. And my parents used to say all the time when I was younger, like, you could do anything you set your mind to. And I used to be that like annoying teenager, like, I won't be able to fly if I jump off it, like just being a dumbass, you know how it is. And when I got that, it was like made everything come to fruition, like this concept that I created this. And I remember calling my dad and him telling me how proud he was of me. And it was just amazing, And I went to 5 home games that year. We went 1-4 in the games, bro, which is ridiculous. Dude, it was, I think it was Tanny. I can't remember right
2012
now.
Was, I
think it was Tanny, yeah. It was just so bad, dude. We were terrible, bro. We were terrible. But Cameron Wake was on the team, and he was like one of my most favorite legendary Dolphins, and it was incredible. But yeah, it was just the most amazing thing ever to be a part of it. I met Dan Marino, did an interview with him, which was fucking incredible. It was just awesome.
Favorite player, too.
Of course, legend. It was just amazing. And like, having that access was super cool, but you made no money. No one gives a shit about Alex Schlinsky's thoughts on the Miami Dolphins. So I didn't make any money doing it. I did a lot of UFC stuff, and basically I realized like the only thing that matters is if you post about 3 people: Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor, Tom Brady. If it's not those people, you won't make any money. So that's all that I did, really. So everything was about how we could beat Tom Brady in the Dolphins articles. So like, I did that for a couple years while I was building the business, but it was pretty obvious like the business was going to take off financially, so I had to choose the financial route or the sports media route, and I chose the financial route. And still a little bit, to be frank, I have some regret on, because it was like, it's hard to recapture that magic. I've never really felt that magic other than that first POD live event. But yeah, that was kind of the journey towards realizing like how I would build it. In terms of your question on the agency hires, while I was doing that, it was obvious like what I wanted to do, which was just sales. So we hired, the first person we hired was Shiro, which was technically the operations director. The second person we hired was an appointment setter, basically like calling leads and everything to try to book sales opportunities. I think Philippines.
Okay.
Pretty sure it's Philippines.
Nice.
From Upwork. Then the third person that we hired was a media buyer. We hired a media buyer to do ads for our clients. I was too cheap to run ads for ourselves. And then I think that was it. And then we ended up hiring the operations director, who she then took over the whole business, basically.
Dude, it's so cool, because every podcast I try to talk about someone's butterfly effect, and I feel like one of yours was making the decision between becoming a sportscaster
No doubt.
And I'm getting to know you much better today, but I can tell you that I think you would have won either way.
Oh, I already know, which is cool. Not even being egotistical. Like, I just have that mindset. Like,
in my opinion, you chose the harder route.
I think so,
because you already got credentialed, and I think it was just going to bound time. I don't know if you would have made as much money.
No way.
But you might have had it more fulfilled in a sense, maybe.
It's like the impact, like the testimonials and stuff of impact that we've had on people, like some of it's just like incredible, it's amazing. It's like, and you want to lose sight of it because of critics math. You've heard of critics math?
No.
1,000 positive comments plus 1 negative comment equals 1 negative comment. So it's like,
that's true.
It's like this concept. So amazing story on this was Larry David. You know Larry David?
Of course.
So he went to a Dodgers game, and the guy he went to was telling this podcast, oh my God, he has a Larry David tattoo. Incredible. So you're gonna love this story.
Yeah.
So so his friend is telling this story on Howard Stern's podcast, I think it was, where Larry David goes to a Dodgers game, and they show Larry David on the screen, and the crowd fucking goes bonkers. Larry David, chanting, whatever. Game ends, he's walking out to his car, and there's like a group of people like waiting to try to like get, Larry David, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And as he's getting to the car, one guy says, Larry David, fuck you, you suck. close the car, and they're driving to LAX, and this guy is telling a story and saying the whole drive, all that Larry was doing was being like, that fucking one guy, what an asshole, blah, blah. And that's critics math, right? And I just found that so funny as a funny way to explain something that's really shitty, which is like, in general, like a lot of times I've struggled with that in a huge way in my life, but I've really tried to like focus on the testimonials and the appreciation and like the real impact, because like I do run a for-profit business and I do want to make money and I do want to enjoy making money, invest my money properly and set my kid up for success, but I also love helping people, like genuinely, I love that, and can't let a couple bad apples ruin that.
Of course, and it's hard because negative just blurs out. Like you can have 1,000 comments and it's like one bad one. Speaking of bad comments, we got our first bad comment today on Test Pilot, and then it's literally like I'm not even kidding, within 30 minutes, we got 17 good ones because I told my team, like, yo, go find people. But I'm still so annoyed about the one. Of course. Because, you know, if you truly care, look, at the end of the day, profit matters. You're growing the business, scaling, all that stuff. Like, you can't survive without it. But if that's the only thing that drives you, you're going to burn out, and someone else is going to come in and just dominate the space.
It's also definitely not a coaching aspect. Like, you can't be a coach if you don't care. It's not possible.
It's impossible.
That's what the CHAMP is. It's an acronym for our model of like caring, helpful, available, motivating, and proactive.
I love
these
the
are those are the contexts of like how to be. Are you saying that? You're saying available because Tua got injured. That's what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Best ability is availability. He's trying to push my buttons here.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so then the transition to POD. So you got the agency, you got Sheer on there, you got the VA. Things started to work. You got a few clients. You know, obviously, what I believe, I'm a believer that look, some people have an advantage whether they're religious backgrounds and communities, or they start with a little bit more money than you did.
Of course, everyone has a card, is what I talk about.
Exactly, and
like,
that
you got to leverage the cards you have.
100%. You leverage one of your cards. Congratulations. I wish I had that card. I didn't. Dude, it is what it is. But you had the card. You pulled it off, and then you started seeing some money with the agency. And then at what point was like, okay, there's something here. I want to teach people how to do this, because when you started POD, there was not that many programs out there, and I'm curious about where that came from.
So at that time, I think the main coaching models that I saw was Dave Rogenmoser, Dan Henry, and I'm trying to think of the third one, but those two I remember off the top of my head.
Gallandil?
Ty. It was Ty. It was before Galland, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Or at least in my like network.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I'm pretty sure at that time what Dan was doing was something I didn't want at all, which was like Facebook ads coaching. But I already knew right off the bat from like the podcasts I had listened to and stuff, like about the importance of focusing on what you're good at. Like, I was a big Tim Ferriss fan back then. Like, I was listening to his podcast every single day. His book was incredible, life-changing. I loved him. Like, if I could ever like see him, I would just like gush over how much impact he had in my life as an early entrepreneur. And in the beginning, I was like, there's no way I want to learn Facebook ads, so there's no interest in Dan's stuff. And Dave's stuff was the first thing that was a community-based thing. It was like, you would come in, it's $30 a month, which is like nothing. And basically, we have all these great entrepreneurs doing all these different things, and they have like spotlight sessions once a month. That's actually how I met Brian. And Dave would have these calls, I think it was twice a week, and you get on, there's 75 to 150 people, and he would start by sharing his financials of Entrepreneur Alliance and honesty and like showing the numbers and the expenses. So it was incredible, and he was super transparent and very kind person, and it was just pretty obvious like what his mission was, which was not to do a community, because that's why he ended up doing Jarvis and everything. But he worked with this guy Austin Ditzel. I don't know if you know him.
That's my first mentor.
Absolute G. Oh, okay, you know Austin.
Not only do I know him as Austin Mueller, and he was my upline in MLM.
That's wild, dude. One of the smartest people ever, and so giving and so kind.
He's a man.
And when like I was watching him be talented, like when I saw him, I was like, I could be that good. Like I knew it, and that was the same thing with Dave. I just needed reps and practice. But as soon as we were in the Zoom, like I couldn't help myself, right? People ask a question, and I'm like ready to answer it, because that's how I am. Like I've always been that way. And this context was solid to do it. Kind of probably annoying, I would assume, for the coaching products. But in general, like it was pretty fast to realize like I want to start doing this. So I started taking on one-on-one clients originally. That was kind of the first step. Just a little bit of help here and there, mostly focusing on sales, because I wasn't like capable of helping with everything at that time. And then one of the spotlights that they did was with this guy Brian Downard, who did like a LinkedIn masterclass. The month prior, did my sales masterclass. And the sales masterclass, I got like 25 clients from Entrepreneur Alliance. It was crazy, dude. And I don't remember how much I was charging then. It was definitely underpriced. Probably.
And I was gonna say not enough. Whatever you were.
Yeah, for sure. It was probably like, I think probably $1,000. I think $997 was at secret price back then on ClickFunnels, if you remember, like $9.97 with the
25K.
for sure. And so it was crazy. It was like insane. Like I was like, wow, it's unreal. And then I got probably 10% of those, or whatever, 20% of those to buy into the first like, monthly coaching that I did for $1,500. And now we were starting to make like money. Like, whoa, we're making good money from the agency, and this could be crazy. And I'm definitely way better at this than the agency. But I realized I couldn't do it by myself because like. It's not. I had a lot of weaknesses on the prospecting side, which is ironic as hell because the company's name is Prospecting on Demand. Should have been Sales on Demand. I don't remember why we didn't do that. People always ask me like, "What's the reason for the name?" Like, it's so cool. I'm like, I genuinely do not remember.
Also, I think indirectly that it's POD sounds better than SOD.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, SOD. That
SOD?
doesn't sound good.
It's like
No, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
But like people ask me like, "What is it?" I'm like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Don't remember. Which is embarrassing. Maybe a little bit too much of the 420. Maybe I don't know.
It's all right.
It is what it is. But in general, it's really funny because when I started the coaching, I realized like this is really hard without the context of understanding like the frameworks of business. I didn't have this when I was there, but now kind of my model is like 4 steps, super simple, right? You have an effective offer, you have a good prospecting channel or multiple prospecting channels ideally, you know how to sell and you know how to fulfill. Those are the 4 tenets, that's it. But I think I forgot the prerequisite of the prospecting side of things, and that was a real big gap. So Brian filled that gap about a year after we started POD. Brian Downer, now my partner in POD,
right.
And super beneficial to have him. He's been on the team, longest tenured team member since me and Shira, and he's our business partner now. And super grateful for him. Wouldn't be here without him.
I love it. I love hearing that, and we'll dive a little bit more into that because I think so many people, man, struggle with the simplicity of the agency, right? Because there is obviously complexity to it, but they complicate either their offer, their sales. Something is complex to where you're not able to get benefits from the agency world. And the reason I love the agency model, I'm sure you can relate, is that the agency model is one of the simplest businesses to scale, to learn. It is, when you get to 100K a month, it gets more complicated to scale.
Sure.
But once you learn the basics of scaling an agency, you can take that and you can grow many other businesses. Because then it's like, okay, I can actually learn how to grow, which is what you did. You learned the agency game, even though you didn't know everything about it. But then you started the coaching, you're like, okay, wait a second, I need something here. And whether you're going to figure it out or... So before I dive into this, were you the one doing sales and Facebook ads for the clients?
No, we didn't do Facebook ads for them.
So what did you guys do? What was the fulfillment for you guys with the lawyers?
In terms, for the attorneys. Okay, I thought you meant for POD. Yeah, for attorneys, we did only Google ads. That's the only thing we did, just Google ads.
Okay.
Because we were in the PI space, and that was like, Facebook wasn't a thing for that then, because like no one's going to get a car accident and go on Facebook to look for it.
Right.
I didn't even understand the concept of retargeting, let alone know the word. I didn't know that was a thing. So it was all Google and a little bit of SEO, but the SEO was almost always canceled because like they are like, if it's not right now, then it's never. So I didn't even bother trying to sell it because I could just sell Google over and over and over.
Okay, so then when you started POD, and then obviously Brian came in as a partner later on, I think, right?
Yep.
Your focus was helping people with, specifically, I'm assuming, more of their front end and helping them more of their offer and sales.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, and then how did you get your you got your first 25 clients, and then what was the vision from there? You're like, okay, this is what I want to do. How come you didn't exit the agency? What was the mindset of keeping the agency rather than selling it?
I think again it comes down to the paradigm. Like I didn't even understand the concept of exiting. Like I didn't have anyone to explain to me the concept of M&A or that was a possibility, or I had no one offer that. So that wasn't something I could think about because it wasn't in my view. I was ignorant to it. I didn't even know about that. And since the agency was basically handed off, and we were making anywhere from 30 to 50K a month on average, just consistently with doing nothing, and profitability was maybe 50%, which is pretty substantial. I was just like, well, this is easy. Like, we'll just keep that. And it gives me like proof, basically, that I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing, and then get the push from there.
And it makes sense on why you wanted to keep the agency, because it gave you leverage when you talk to other agency owners where, I heard about you because I was actually a competitor of yours to a certain degree. I didn't own the coaching program, and every single time, it should make you happy, I heard about POD. It was only good things. Like that's good. It was like it gave me a hard journey to close some people, because they were like, I'm choosing between you and POD, and we were so similar to a certain degree because we both focused so much on the front end. But what I want to know, man, is as we kind of skip towards what you guys are doing today, and it's a lot of the agencies game has changed so much.
So much, it's crazy.
What have you seen over the last like 1 or 2 years in the agency space that's so different with when you first started the POD?
Oh, it's so obvious. So it's so interesting you just brought this up because I just did this in like at our event, and I think you'll really love this.
Yeah.
So I was talking at the event about the concept of like these 3 different eras basically in the marketing space, and it's certainly not a comprehensive era, but I think it's valuable to consider this in like a 3 very clearly defined different stages of this industry. The OG like original digital marketing.com boom, which was even before us, where it's like traditional media companies are like, whoa, like websites are a thing, email's a thing, display advertising is a thing, SEO is a thing, Google is a thing, websites are a thing, and it was just everything was Wild West, right? Like you have to like have clients already, traditional clients, and now basically you're selling them websites, and no one has ever sold a website before. Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? Who knows? And it was just this Wild West of media. The second really like massive boom in the industry is where you and I started, which was basically what I call the ClickFunnels era, right? ClickFunnels comes in and says, hey, young kid, like I'm promising you one funnel away to like build any business, whether it's e-com or agency. I would say the majority of those people though were agency, right? They're I'm gonna work with a med spa or chiropractor and offer them this service or sell them funnels. And it ended up being like a high ticket model, right? So like you're gonna sell a 3 to 5K funnel with a setup fee, and then you're gonna do $2,000 a month. And that was like the era for a long time. And then High Level originally came in at the end of the ClickFunnels era, in my opinion, to be a competitor of theirs, but in a way of just like lowering the tech stack cost, even before what would be the third era, which is the SaaS era now. And so now the SaaS era, after High Level came in, again, originally just to be like, your tech bill is like $1,200 a month, we're gonna make it $97 a month. And I remember getting High Level for that, and I was like, it's amazing. Like,
the best.
Wow, I get to like hire another person for $1,000, or I get to keep the 1,000. It's amazing, right? And then they started realizing people were selling sub accounts like without it being a SaaS thing, and now they're like, oh, we should just make a SaaS mode for this, SaaS configure it, and then it changed the entire landscape. And so now we're in this massive SaaS boom, right? And to me, it's really interesting because like, what GHL does and what High Level is all about is like you can sell 2 really valuable things. One, you can sell against agencies by talking about like, I'm gonna help you maximize current opportunities. Everyone's going to you, Omer, and saying you need new opportunities, and it's all high ticket. I'm saying you're missing opportunities right now, and if we maximize those, either through missed call text back or text automation or AI, sales agents, you're gonna make so much more money without having to risk $10,000 up front. And that's very intriguing to a buyer, right, and to a new business owner or a veteran business owner who's been burned multiple times by bigger agencies. But these 3 eras, what it's done is caused massive confusion in the space, because the average business owner, whether it's an HVAC business owner or a landscaper or an attorney, they can't reconcile the difference why Alex Slinsky, someone like me, reached out a year ago and they're like, it's 5 G's a month and you got to do it for a year and it's going to work. And now they're like getting the same similar offer, but it's $500 a month. And they're like, how did a 10x change, right? And they can't reconcile it enough with being like, oh, technology must be different. And so now everything's a race to the bottom. Lowest quality possible, lowest results possible, lowest fulfillment cost possible because of this new era we're in. And I find that to be very interesting. So I think that's kind of the model that we're seeing. And so basically what I'm trying to coach is building like a strategic partner agency. The concept of like, you will have High Level and the stickiness for it as a good, easy downsell and a component of your offer, but your component of your offer is also selling new opportunities. So you're in that like $2,500 a month space, at least $1,000 profit per client, no matter what, so that it's easy to get to your revenue goals. Because people are like, I want to make $100,000 a month selling SaaS at $97. I'm like, bro, like you're doing the hardest thing possible, bro.
Do the math.
I'm not doing the math. It's a lot.
Yeah.
They're like,
well, that's what I'm telling clients. I'm like,
1,000 clients or whatever. It's like, come on, dude, why?
Yeah.
Why? And I'm like, okay, how long have you been doing it? 3 months. How many clients do you have?
1.
4. Like, what
Yeah.
are we talking about, bro? Why don't you go back to those 4 clients and get 2 of them to buy a $2,500 product? Now you got $5K instead of $1,200. You're welcome. It's like, what are we doing here? It's crazy.
It's shifted so much. And one thing we skipped over, and I wanted to make sure we definitely don't, is your number 1 skill set, which is sales.
Yeah.
So first off, what would you recommend someone that clearly has the it factor when it comes to being extroverted, liking to talk, liking to interaction, even though you and I both can agree that that doesn't mean that you're good at sales.
Not it, no.
Yeah. But it does help to be good at talking.
Of course, it's a big advantage.
What would you recommend for someone to get good at sales in 2024 going into 25?
That's That's a really good question. I feel like there's several really solid books that I could recommend. Like anything from Oren Klaff is excellent. Like those really helped me. Spin Selling is also a very, very good book. Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine is really good. If you can't listen to those books, I would recommend something like Blinkist, which is like shortens the books. If you have like ADD, I would really recommend that. Just like start becoming aware. Like one of the big things, like the biggest cost of our lives are two things, like ignorance and action or inaction, right? So like if I can pay down ignorance consistently, either through coaching or books or podcasts, that's what I'll do. I'm not as hungry or motivated for learning in this stage of my life as I am for like learning how to be the best dad and best husband and best person for myself versus business. Like I'm pretty just happy with business in general. But when I was younger, that was all I was interested in, like only learning. So I think like you have to, like we said a few times on the pod, like about things that I was just very ignorant to. And when you don't know that, like we said, like a problem well explained is a problem half solved. If you don't know anything about sales or paradigms or frames, you have no insight whatsoever, like it's gonna really hurt you. So like really the biggest person that impacted me, and he has no idea about this, was when I went to Dan Henry's first event, AdCon. I was just a generally good salesperson. Not a seasoned sales professional. I'm just a deal maker, right? Talented, yeah. Right? And I learned it all from my mom, Jewish mom style, vibes, like she got what she wanted, amazingly gifted at it, and like all through heart and from empathy, and like I know how to just be a really good people person, and I was great at it, but I didn't have any frames. I didn't know how to sell it or coach it. I would just talk in like esoteric ideas when I was coaching it, and then I listened to Ryan Stewman, and he like breaks down at Dan Henry's event this like very particular frame, and it completely blew my mind, and that's when I like started reading like every single book after that to like be like, man, I gotta make my own frame. And then One Call Close just was like there, and it was a no-brainer.
You know, what's interesting is I did 2 call closes for probably my first 3 years of sales because that's what I was taught and that worked.
For sure.
And then as soon as I started learning 1 call close, I was like, what the fuck was I doing?
do this?
It was literally
Makes no
so
sense.
silly. It was so silly.
Stupid. So
but
dumb.
I do think
Don't do 2 calls.
Don't do 2 calls.
Don't do 2 calls.
And it's actually really funny because I just watched a real estate investor break down shit on this lady that's very famous in our space. Why 1 call close is the shit, and you should only do that. But what I believe in today's day and age, going what you said, I think books obviously work, but I think so many people try to be business owners where they should just learn how to be salespeople.
No doubt. That's the first prerequisite to anything. It's the most important muscle that we can like flex, and not just in business too, also in life. Like everything is selling, everything is influencing. Like to get Omer to give me his time to come out here, that's selling, right? Like that doesn't mean it's the same sale as getting a credit card. Like it might be an easy sale because we have acquaintanceship and it's easy. We have friendship, bam, no problem. But everything is some level of influencing a decision, because at the end of the day, like everyone has the same amount of time, regardless of how much money you have. You can never buy more of it. It's non-renewable. So the reality is, anyone that's spending any particular time or money to do something with you, you are convincing them or convincing yourself or influencing their decision. And the most consistent decision is indecision, procrastination, because there's so many decisions we are forced to make every single day while we're driving, stop at the red light, go at the green light, eating food from the fridge, picking the clothes out from our dresser. There's conscious things we are forced to decide upon every single day that when we have to do the other conscious decisions, we don't want to. What movie do you want to watch? I don't know. What do you want to watch? What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Right? So indecision and procrastination is so common. So like one of my big mantras is do it now. Like I love that concept. Do it now. Now, do I always do it now? No. Right? So my wife and I hold each other accountable. She's like, do the litter. I'm like, I don't want it. She's like, do it now. I'm like, I'm gonna do it now, right? Like it's one of our things so that we avoid procrastination, because we, like people have a consistency to be procrastinating all the time. And I think that's really important to understand in sales.
I love that. I love that. Do you think that most people should learn sales by getting a job, or do you think it's better for them to start as an entrepreneur?
I feel like probably just getting a sales job is best. So like I originally sold, my first thing that I sold outside of my own agency stuff was, you know Alan Belcher?
Yes, he's a UFC fighter.
Yeah, so it's crazy. I just realized this, that I could tell you this of all people who get it. So Alan ran like an online martial arts studio course, and I was selling for that and making really good money doing it. And the cool thing was like I didn't have like a lot of, he was like very chill, like very not aggressive or mean or anything like that.
Complete opposite of what you think he'd be.
Definitely not like Grant Cardone style whatsoever. Like very nurturing, honestly, which is crazy. It's funny that you say it too, because it's so true now in retrospect. Like this dude's a like killer,
literally
literally killer. So you know, he was very kind. He's like, no pressure. Like we have a lot of leads, we have extra ones. Like I'll give them to you. They're quality. Like they know who I am. I'm Alan Belcher. Belcher, yada yada, and I was doing pretty good. I don't remember the close rate or anything. It would be a lie to say
good
what it was, but good enough to
Yeah.
make money and feel like, well, I'm getting better at this. And I think that's just definitely better, because if you don't, like, again, the prerequisite to selling, there's two prerequisites. You need the offer and you need prospecting. And if you're like trying to become really good at a really effective offer and really good at prospecting, only to just get moderately better at selling, it's harder. So like, I think of it like pitching, like in baseball. Like, if you want to become better at hitting home runs, getting more closes, right? Well, it's a lot easier if you have 500 pitches for practice versus 5, right? And so if you're doing the offer and prospecting, you're practicing sales probably like 5 times a month, right? If you go into an offer that already has leads and opportunities for you, even if you have to do some prospecting as well, like, you're going to probably have at least 20 pitches, right? So you get better and closer and faster. Will you make as much money? No, but I think that's the most effective solution. Anyone that's considering it, like, it's definitely, in my opinion, a better move to start with selling for someone else's product.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny you say Alan Belcher, because I literally saw his Facebook and I was like, this has got to be another Alan Belcher. This is right when I became like a diehard fan too, and I'm like, this is Alan Belcher, UFC fighter. This is so random,
So wild.
but that's so cool. But so you believe in getting a job, getting the reps, because I think that's super important. Obviously,
Sure.
selling something that you also believe in.
Critical,
dude. I have a sales guy right now, and he is, he's first few couple months learning, he's struggling, getting through it, and now he's out closing me. And the coolest part that's the best part. The coolest part is I'm letting him close something that he believes in.
There's
because
nothing
he's
better.
selling. It's a remote Latino services, so he's selling people, but human services, right? Of people that are from his country, and he's
Amazing.
getting it, and you feel
Probably so inspiring.
It's inspiring, and you feel so connected to the product. I think so many people they try to learn sales, and they're selling the wrong thing, or they're selling something that they don't internally feel good about.
100%.
I don't know about you, but the one thing that I hate being called, it's like the most disrespectful thing to us. I think it's being called a car salesman.
Of course.
The worst.
Of course.
I used to sell cars. Have you ever sold cars?
No.
It is the worst.
Oh, I
it
can't
is
even
literally the
imagine.
worst. And the thing is, the only way you make money from selling cars is by screwing people over.
No doubt. Yeah, you need this lining. You have to. It's
hate
manufacturer warranty. You
that.
need it. It's
I hate
$10,000. You
that.
need it, and I
Yes.
get 80% of that
Yep.
10,000. So please pay for it.
100% what you just said times 100 times worse, because I would literally, I remember like we celebrated someone getting so freaking screwed over where, and it's the thing, and it's not just us, it's the car sales world, right? And then I think about POD, for instance, like you're only celebrating when people win. When you
For
get
sure.
to-
That's one of my lines, by the way, like a super secret, hell of a really good line for people. Like, and you only can use this if you believe it. But like, when I have someone about to pay me, I never take the credit card without saying this. I'm like, look, Omar, this is really important, okay? I'm really excited at this point. Don't get me wrong. Like, when we hang up here, I'm gonna be like, yes, we did it. I'm gonna call my business partner. We're stoked to have you. But the job starts now. Okay, the job starts now,
Yep.
right? The decision you're about to make and work with us, that's not just a win for us. Now we're going to help you. Now we're
Yep.
going to actually make
Yep.
the win. You're
Yep.
in that with us, right? You're going to
Yep.
crush it. The feeling that person has is like a billion times better, because I just went through that whole thing when they thought the job was over. You got the credit card. It's like, it's not done. Now it's done.
Yeah.
And that really, really makes a big difference. But I don't want to come across in any way as sanctimonious. Like, in the beginning, I was 100% manipulating people.
Yeah.
There's no question. And not just only in the agency stuff. In POD too, when I was younger, I will take ownership of that for sure, because I think I had like a huge ego, right? Like just a massive ego that I could help everyone, and I was blinding myself and creating Olympic gymnastic level logic jumps of how this person is the right fit, because like I was capable of selling anyone, and that's the reality, and I would do what it takes, only to realize like after you have some people go through that and not have a good experience, and you're like, it's counterintuitive to who you are as a person. Like when I was younger, my dad would always talk about like, you're Schlinsky, you don't just represent yourself, you don't just represent me, you represent my father. And his dad passed away 10 years before I was born, and that shit matters to me. Like my name is not, just some like, Joe Smith or whatever. Like I have a very unique name, a very unique person just like you, and that shit really matters. And so if I'm taking money out of people's pockets and trying to justify in my brain that that's okay, only to realize 3, 4, 5, 6 months later that was not a good thing for them to do, and I should have known that before, I need to learn from that. And so whenever I coach sales to anyone, especially new, I'm always imploring them like, look, I'm giving you all the things that people do to scam people and like manipulate people, but you got to do it with respect and love, because you don't want to be on the other side. And everyone's like, oh, only idiots would be scammed. It's like, nah, dude, smart fucking people get scammed because
the
of
time.
passion, dude, because of passion. And you really got to do the right thing to the best of your ability.
Which it's actually funny you say that, because the core, one of our core values is doing the right thing. right? And in the beginning, I see where you're coming from, and there is like a side of manipulation, but it's also the fake it till you make it type of
No
world.
doubt, that's what
And
it
you
was.
you
It
have
was
to have
never
that
with
force,
the.
that
It was never
confidence.
with the intention of really hurting someone.
Yes.
It was me being egotistical, thinking I could save everyone, which
Yeah.
is insane.
Insane.
Of course, you can't do that,
insane.
right? Come
whether
on,
it's
dude.
with the agency, whether it's with POD, whether
With
it's
anything, with anything.
Yeah.
But I was so egotistical because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm the fucking bomb. I'm the best.
You
You,
have
know
to.
what I got? I got from one of my coaches. That was like the best advice ever. Oh, I did like a call where I was super passionate. Like I get to this unlocked level, like crazy different level.
Yeah.
If people have seen me speak, they'll know what I'm talking about. And I like got it on a call, and I was like explaining like, I'm the freaking best at sales. I'm gonna make you unstoppable. We're the best. And after the call, he's like, I don't want you to say you're the best. I want you to say you're gonna make them best and only make them best. And when he said that, I was like, change this mindset of like, it's not about me. It's about what I can do to help someone. And I love that framework. And so I try to use that as much as I can now.
I love that. So let's go back to POD. So you talked a little bit about the eras that we're in, the three
Yeah.
different eras, right? And where, when I think we talked last year at GHL at the event, and you were mentioning Go High Level events. Shout out to Go High Level.
Love you guys.
You were telling me how you guys made like a huge shift in the coaching world, where you're not trying to get like a lot of new clients. You're not
No.
pushing. You're really like focusing on the clients that you have, and then here and there.
For sure.
Where did that come from? Because that's not what everybody else was doing, and it's a big shift. It was a big shift.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is like when I grew up, like I said, it was just like a very tight-knit community. You know, like one of my coolest things about my life is like you were talking about fantasy football before. Like the fantasy football league I'm in is in its 21st year. It's with, I'm 33 by the way, so for clarity, since I was 12 years old. My boys from back in the day, you know, like I had grew up in this small community in South Florida, and I had my like real boys, like a group of 6, 7 or very close people, and then a nice group of 10 that were like all very close with their, you know, from OG. And none of us moved ever from childhood to 18 years old before we went to, you know, college, and we have this bond that's unstoppable, and it's an unstoppable force. It's an absolute brotherhood, and it's like very, very special. And so like I try to curate that special thing, because like as you get to be an adult, it's way harder to meet people. It's way harder to feel something like that. And I have a gift of like being able to connect people and make a difference in their life, and I want to leverage that as best I can, but I can't do it with so many people. Like I'm not capable of it, and it weighs on me. So like I'll give you a quick example. So last year we ran an event. It was our 13th event. We just finished our 16th, which is crazy. We ran our 13th event. It was our biggest event. 150 people. Huge shout out to Extendly and Band for making it 150 people. We had 80 people, and I was like, hey Band, can you send one email so we get to 140 people bought tickets?
Big shout out.
Damn, okay, bro. Okay. And then like we're 2 months later, he's like, I think more people want to come. I'm like, okay, all right, I guess we'll do it.
Yeah.
So we did 150, but half of the audience was Band's audience, and cool people. But like I had someone message me in January, and they're like, dude, the event was absolutely incredible in October, and I'm so grateful for you. Like, when is the next one? And I'm looking at this guy's name, and I have no idea who he is at all. No clue. And I'm looking down at our RSVP list. I'm like, is this guy trolling me? And there he is on the RSVP list. 150 people. Didn't know he was. And that's just very counterintuitive to the person I am. Like, I'm not interested in that. Like, I want to know about your life. I want to know about your kids. I want to know about the things you love. I want to know the shitty sports teams you like that aren't the Dolphins or Heat. I love life and the vitality of life, particularly because it was almost ripped away from me from my heart surgery, and almost ripped away from my dad from his stroke when I was a freshman in high school. And I just like respect life so much that and other human beings and like their journeys, that doing something where it's like just for more, I can't pour into people the way I want to, and I don't know how to, and this is something I'm working on now, how to pour into leadership to pour into more people. I didn't learn that. I knew my skill. I didn't learn how to give that skill to someone else until pretty recently. And so, yeah, just 50 people was just the move. It's like making enough money, like we're good and we're really changing lives, and that's super special. And just like anything, there's always churn, right? So if you got 50 people, 2 months later you'll have 42, and then you'll get the 8 new people, and then you'll go to 47, and then you get the 3 new people. And that's been the model for POD for a long time. That's why we've been in the space so long. But yeah, it's just been, that's why, just like coming from that tight-knit community and realizing like this is just my core values, and like everyone else wants to go, you know, an inch deep and a mile wide. I want to go a mile deep and an inch wide, and that's just how I am.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with the other one as well.
No, of course.
You know, other people would be like, they would see the one person that messaged them, and they'd be like, whoa, I don't know this person, I changed your life. Let's do that 1,000 times. Like, right?
It's true,
That's
for sure.
100%.
100%.
I would feel like an absolute fraud if I don't talk about one of your events, which I would love to come in the future.
Dude, you got it.
And 100% need to and will. Talk to me about the event, where that came from, because that is also another shift, and I think a lot of people undermine throwing events.
Oh, it's the best.
It's the best, but also I'm sure it's a stressful part to it, and I'm sure
hardest thing in the world.
it is. The leading up to it is not the funnest part, but then at the
I'm
event
much better
is
at it now. Much better.
for sure.
Yeah.
So the idea was to be. I'm sure part of it was bringing people together.
Yes.
But a lot of events and a lot of coaching programs that I know of and been a part of, they do a couple events, they don't do them anymore.
Yeah.
How did you guys just keep going? First of all, where did the
It's
idea
my
come?
favorite thing in the whole world, man.
Tell
So
me.
again, it came from just community, right? Like I come from community, and community is big to me. And my mom was like a very big like community person. She was the president of the sisterhood at the temple, like putting together events and galas and dinners and all that stuff at my house. Every Shabbat we'd have people over, like Sukkot we'd have people over, Rosh Hashanah we'd have people over. Like that was a thing. Like that was just the thing. Like my mom was the big people that are religious know the concept of like do by thy neighbor, right? And like let people into your house. That is my mom. That is my parents, and that's who I am. Like, and that I love being that person. Like I've done events at my house, and I love getting my clients to come to my house, and then also just like spending time with them, not about business too, and it's beautiful, and I love that. But I think particularly on the event side, when we did the Zoom calls, we did Zoom probably from like 2018 was like the legit like real like POD as it is now. Obviously it's changed a lot, but that was really like the first 2 years was like coaching like one-to-one, not really like Slack, it was kind of random, and then like 2018 was like the OG course, and then starting to move into like Zoom calls and all that stuff. And when we started doing it and seeing the impact, we had like one little meetup at my house with like 12 people, which was our first event, and it was insane, dude. It was insane. It was like literally the coolest thing ever. I'll never forget it. Like when everyone left the house, Icon was there, by the way, one of the legends, OG POD members, Brandon Becker. I remember when he said Icon, I was like, what the dude?
So you knew him before Icon?
No, he just had turned to Icon.
Okay.
Turned to Icon.
Okay.
He's wearing a fucking kimono.
Yeah.
He's like this is the test phase of Icon.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Icon test phase.
Yeah.
I'm like, this kid is fucking crazy,
Yeah.
but his passion is just
It's
unmatched.
It's different.
And it's just beautiful, and you're such a beautiful person, and I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
And he saw the vision, he loved it. And as soon as like the people left my house, Shira and I were just like, we need to do a big one. We need to do this. And so it took 2 years to do from a year and a half from March 2019 to March 2020. We wanted to put this event together. And then in December 2019, 3 months before the event, I found out that I had my problem with my heart required surgery. So they were like, oh, well, you should have the surgery as soon as possible. Let's schedule for January. My brain was extremely effed up then because I'd been working on this event for over a year, and I was like, can we do it after the event? Can we push it to after March? I know it's crazy in retrospect to say that, so they're like, okay, but we should do it right after the event. So we do the event, completely life-changing experience. My parents were there, which was like the most, because you were just saying it before, like when you're like, oh, you're not an attorney or whatever. Like my parents were always extremely supportive of me, no matter what. But I don't think they understood what I was doing for the attorneys, right? I don't think they knew, and then they definitely didn't understand POD at all, because like that was just not a paradigm for them. Like, what is a mastermind for agency? What are you talking about? And they came and they saw, and we had a pretty strong community already then of like 25 people, and it was strong because like we had built a strong bond together, and coming together in person for the first time created the most insane energy. Like you just saw your best friends ever online, and now they're in person, and it's like, wow, this is fucking incredible.
It's real.
And I was just lit, dude. I was absolutely lit on fire, and I was my best self, the best person I am, like just pouring into people on stage and like captivating. Like when I get into that space, dude, like all the eyes on me, not on their phone, not on anything, and I'm like, it's just so strong. It's like an out-of-body experience, and it's so special. And I just experienced it at the event the other night, which was so great. I'm getting goosebumps because it's just super special to get there. And after the event, I just remember journaling and talking to the team and just being like, this is the greatest thing we've ever done. I want to do this forever. And then COVID happened. And then I had my surgery during COVID, and my wife got pregnant during the COVID, and then I had my surgery, and then we had Ellie, and so it changed everything. So we didn't do an event for a year and a half after. We did 2 virtual events while I was recovering. Not at all the same, but we made it a lot of fun. We had a great time. But yeah, it's it sucks. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
Not the same. But
it's like virtual podcasts and in person.
Like
me and you could have done this.
Of course, way better doing it in person.
Yeah.
And so when we did the first one coming back, and like whatever it was, May 21, Feb 21, I can't remember, May or...
Yeah, about a year and a half later.
It's like a year and a half or whatever, and I remember like the awkward, should we hug? Like, do we hug? because we're huggers. We're huggers, but COVID, like, do we hug?
That's still mascara.
We just did the hugs. Like, we did it, and we did no masks, too.
Yeah.
Sorry, chill.
But you're also in
Don't
Florida.
be upset. I am. I mean, that's why we did the event, bro. That's
Yeah.
why we did the event. And, like, after that one, it was a lot smaller, but it was, like, 50 people, but it was just, like, we need to do this as much as possible. And it was just the most important thing to me in the whole world. So.
I love your passion towards it, and I love that we have a very close mutual friend that he credits a lot of what he does today to you.
Dude, his first ever event speaking was at my event. It was
Yours,
amazing.
yeah,
He set that whole thing up, and then he like built Clever, and it was amazing. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of you, Icon. I love you.
And Creator Fest
was amazing, dude.
And it's just like it's full circle. You know what I mean? It's just like it's super cool, and like obviously that's how you and I know each other in a sense. So it's
classic
super cool.
Icon. By the way, 2 weeks before the event, he's like, "Bro, I'd be honored if you were the MC." I'm like, "Why the fuck you tell me 2 weeks, dog? Could you tell me 2 months ago?"
You know what's crazy? He told me like way before he told you.
I'm not shocked, by the way, because he told me that too. He's like, "By the way, I penciled you in like 6 months." I'm like, "Hi, buddy, shoot me a text, bro."
3 months, 2 months. Thank God you couldn't make it. You know, maybe.
He knows. I'll drop everything.
Yeah,
100%. So it was awesome.
I love that. So, you know, going into a sensitive topic, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but like the heart thing is like, obviously that's life, but beyond life changing in a different aspect. First off, what is exactly the heart surgery, and what exactly happened, and like, are you good now? Is it something that, you know?
I'm good, thank God. So basically Iron Man. So I have a mechanical heart valve. So my aortic valve had to be replaced with a basically like this size aortic valve, which is pure carbon inside of my heart. So I have to take blood thinners for that because like you can't get clotted. But 4 years on October 15th, which is insane. So my real birthday, September 4th, was a couple weeks ago, but it doesn't feel like my real birthday anymore. October 15th really feels like my birthday. It's crazy, you know, like religious people talk about being born again, and I'm not very religious or anything. Like, I appreciate God and I respect people that are religious. Like, I'm really cool with just like whatever your view is, as long as you're respectful to others is good with me. But like, it was crazy, bro. Like, waking up from the surgery, it was like, holy shit, like, wow, I made it to the other side. It was so wild. So when I was 18, I went to, because I was going to go to Bar Ilan. After high school, I was going to go to Bar Ilan for a year, which is a school in Tel Aviv in Israel. And I was going to the regular checkup that you have to do before you go anywhere internationally. And basically the doctor's like, "Do you know you have a heart murmur?" I'm like, "What?" So I went to a doctor and they're like, "Your heart's enlarged and you have this." And I'm like, "What the fuck?" I thought I was going to die. I went to a second opinion because I was like I'm a short king, right? Hashtag short kings. So I went to like
not that short.
Pediatric cardiologist. So the next one I went to an adult cardiologist. He's like, "Your heart's not enlarged, but you do have a bicuspid aortic valve." So my aortic valve basically opened in a semicircle instead of like a piece or Mercedes-Benz sign, which isn't good. So blood's leaking back into it. And he's like, "You're guaranteed to have surgery pretty much by the time you're 70 years old, but it won't be until you're really old." So every year for 10 years, from 18 to 28 years old, I did a test, an echocardiogram, which is the same thing they do for women on their womb, but for your heart, to check the size of it, to make sure that the blood leakage wasn't damaging. And they called me back, you know, in December 2019 on my 11th month. They're like, "You got to come back into the office." I'm like, "Why do I got to come back to the office?" They're like, "You got to come back into the office." I remember going back into the office and the doctor wasting no time. And I reflect on this moment because, first of all, it was like so stunning what it was, because it was like this thing that I knew was going to happen for a long time, but I still didn't expect it to happen for still longer, and I wasn't a dad yet, and that was like a big thing for me. Like, I really, really wanted to be a dad very badly. Like, I told you I almost lost my dad when I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't, and like, you don't get second chances in life, you know? My grandmother passed away 10 years ago, and when we have our son, I sometimes wish, like, man, I wish Bubby could see Ellie, and I don't get that. Like, it's not going to happen, right? I don't have to say that with my dad, you know? And like, it's really special, you know? It's really, really special to have my dad. So I really wanted to be a dad super bad. And I remember when the doctor came in and he was just like, "You're gonna have to have the surgery." He didn't waste one thing. The door wasn't even closed by the time he said it, because he couldn't bear that, right? He was just like, and I could tell that it was killing him because I'm 28 years old and I got my wife is right here. And yeah, it was just so shitty. I think I blacked out. Completely don't remember what happened thereafter. Literally don't remember. I remember being home and just being sunk and calling my parents, which was like the worst call I've ever done in my life. But my parents, like usual, just super supportive. And like, my dad had this mantra from right then, day one, that was like a big thing. "You will be on the other side. You will soon be on the other side. You will be on the other side." So yeah, we prepped for the surgery for April. They rescheduled to June. In May, Shira got pregnant. which is insane.
God.
So we're like, holy shit, now she was going to be pregnant during this. At least the surgery's next month. COVID spike, got to push it again. So I had the surgery 10 months after I was told I had to have it, which was definitely the worst 10 months of my life. Sure, being pregnant and also like literally thinking every day I was going to die, which sucks. So shitty, dude. Going into the hospital, getting shaved, like getting the original medicine, and like I've done my fair share of things. Okay, we don't need to say the word, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the drugs that they give you in the hospital are a totally different level. I've never done anything like that ever.
Hopefully never do it again.
No,
Yeah.
never. So the first one is like to calm your anxiety, and I was just annihilated as soon as they did it, which created an immense amount of fear, like huge amount of fear, because I realized like, oh crap, now I'm in it and I'm no longer in control. And Shira is like gripping my hand like death, and the doctor walks up and he says, "Are you ready?" And he's holding his hands up with like the blue gloves and his mask on. He's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "No, I'm super freaking out. I'm so scared." And he goes, "I promise you're gonna meet your son. Let's go do this." That was the last thing he said.
That's it.
And then I remember being woken up, which was disgusting and horrible. Before that, by the way, the last memory I have, like the actual last thought I have, is thinking logically, I should be asleep by now. I'll never forget that. That was the last logical thought that I had, and then I was passed out. And I remember waking up and really wanting chocolate because I'm a big chocolate fan, which the nurse laughed at because like you can't have chocolate after heart surgery. And then the recovery was pretty shitty, but like it didn't matter. The recovery was actually like not so bad because I was alive, so it didn't matter. And like having Ellie coming up and being born, and like I don't think we had his name yet at that time, and so it was a super exciting time. Like Shira and I talking privately about what we're gonna name our son and why, and so we named him after her grandfather, who was a Holocaust survivor, and his English name is Alex, and his Hebrew name is Eliyahu. So we're like, Eli's perfect. Aryeh for his middle name as a lion, for like imbuing strength upon him for what I went through and what he went through, what his mom went through while we were having it. And it was like born 117 days later. I couldn't hold him to my chest really still, but it was just like the most unbelievable like 4-month span ever. And now 4 years later, October 15th, 2024, it's amazing. I'm healthy. I'm good. Thank God. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I have a less than 5% chance of reintervention. So, God willing, that will maintain.
And we'll keep doing these podcasts and
Amen
talk
to
about
that.
Ellie being 7 years old and 8 years old
Dude,
and 12.
crazy as hell, bro. It goes so fast.
Before we close this out, man, like you're so passionate about your family, and I think what made you who you are today. It sounds like it so much has to do with your father and obviously your mom and obviously meeting your wife. What are things that you want your son to know about from where you're sitting today? Like, what are things that you want him to, and if he watches this, and I hope he does, that you'll be like, this is who I am and this is what I want you to be like, and what are just word of advice you have for your son?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I feel like I'm so grateful and appreciative of like how incredibly supportive my parents were, and I want to live up to them because they were just amazing, and I thought that was just expected, like, because that's how I was growing, and it's just not, man. I met a lot of people that have just not had that experience, and realizing like how foreign that is to me is crazy. Like, there's nothing I love more in the whole world than Ellie. He's the most incredible thing ever. I think to me, like, the most important value to me is integrity, right? And kindness. I feel like those two key elements are just so important. Like, we can manipulate and take advantage of people, or we can help people and lift them up. And what better way to live life than lifting people up together? Like, everyone's going through something. Everyone's got some challenge to bear. And life is so great and amazing and beautiful. And I don't know what like your beliefs are of everything, of like what happens, do you get another shot? But like, all that I know is the current facts about my pragmatism, and like the way I'm pragmatic about it is this is the one chance I got, right? And now I feel like, which is the crazy thing, that I have a second shot, which is like really, really wild. That's why I'm saying it's like waking up again was like, wow, this is amazing. And so, to be honest, it's still hard sometimes because I feel like I challenge myself on that. Like, am I living up to the second shot? And you know how it is. You're always your worst critic. But in a general sense, just like being kind to yourself and being kind to others and being a person of integrity and matching the Shlinsky name, because it matters a lot. It matters to me. It matters to you. It matters to my dad, your grandfather, and my grandfather, my great-grandfather, or your great-grandfather. And I think that is really important, also to my brothers too. And I think those are the two key things, just kindness and integrity. The more empathetic we can be, the better. I'll leave this, with this, like, huge shout out to my mom. Like, she was the type of person, no doubt, like, you're in a line at Disney, like she would become immediately best friends with this completely random stranger about anything, about any topic, like a chameleon of conversation and capable of doing that to anyone. And when I was younger, a little bit, it was like, oh my God, here she goes again. What a gift, like what a talent, right? To like brighten someone's day, to make someone smile. Like what a gift she had. And she still has, and would like literally give her shirt off her back to a stranger if they needed it, which sometimes is not good or healthy, but like the drive and passion and integrity and kindness, like I love being that person. I want more of that. That's what I try to do at every event. And when I do this at every event, like with the feeling that you're having right now listening to this, that's what everyone feels, because they all want more of that and they want to do more than that. And I'll leave with one last comment, and huge shout out to my client Brett Williamson, who really taught me an unbelievable mantra that I love, and I think you'll love too, as a great way to close. He says to love people when they least deserve it and least expect it. And I love that concept so much, because I feel like we live in a pitchfork society of like hating on people so much, and I do it too sometimes, of course, and like it's fun, it's easy to make fun of people or laugh at someone's trauma. Like I think Jackass is the funniest thing in the world, like, but it's also crazy that that's how your brain works. Like, wow, that guy just broke his leg, ha ha ha. That guy just hurt himself skateboarding, ha ha. Why is that so funny to me? But in general, like it just is, right? So I just think loving people when they least deserve and least expect is a beautiful way to live, and I try to live by that every day.
You know, I can't thank you enough for opening up and pouring into the audience. And, you know, this is a growing podcast. And
dude, good for you, bro. Killing it.
I'm so happy to finally have connected with you. And we're making America remote again.
We are making America remote again.
Absolutely.
We're making America remote again. You got a tiny head, bro.
I do have a tiny head. Tiny head, big brain. That's what my mom says. You know, one of my favorite podcasts is Diary CEO, and I'm always like, I want to get to that level. Have you ever seen Diary CEO with Stephen Barnett?
No, I definitely got to check it.
You will absolutely love it, because he interviews CEOs from all over the world, and he gets very emotional. Every episode, someone like
for sure.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is what I want. I don't want to just talk about business.
That's the juice, baby.
I want to do everything.
That's what I'm about, bro.
This is one of my favorite podcasts ever.
Appreciate you,
So I appreciate you for having me here, and I can't wait to talk again. Ellie and the rest of the Schlinskys, you guys are amazing. You created an amazing human, and thank you again for tuning in for Make America Remote Again. I'll see you in the next episode.